simply be a new source of corruption. About a month before the state of calamity because of COVID-19 ends, a center wants to look into extending the validity of the vaccination program law. And it's official. Basketball sensation Kai Soto will again play for Gilas Pilipinas in the fourth window of the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup Asian qualifiers. The Land Transportation Office wants local governments in Metro Manila to suspend the implementation of their No Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP. NCAP is a system where traffic violations are captured through cameras. Notice of violations are sent to the residents of the registered owner of the vehicle involved. A lawmaker now wants to look into NCAP, saying it's becoming a source of corruption. Here's George Gilas with that story.
The public utility vehicle sector has been complaining about the no-contact apprehension policy against traffic violators in Metro Manila. Among them, jeepney driver Paul Generoso, who accumulated thousands of pesos in overdue fines for failing to pay on time.
Iwas na lang po, kasi ayaw namin na mahuli. Kasi mahirap po magbayad. Lalo po wala namang kinikita.
This is among the reasons why the Land Transportation Office, or LTO, is calling on local government units implementing the NCAP to suspend it for the meantime.
That needs to be reviewed. Kasi naaabuso po yun, prosesong yan. In some areas po, dati ang bayad lang is 150 pesos. Ngayon naging 2,000 pesos. Bakit ang laki for a no-contact apprehension?
The LTO adds that based on its initial inquiry, fines imposed by LGUs are higher because they share the payment with their technology providers.
I think they're engaging a service provider on this, the one who invested on the CCTV, etc. So, yan po ang sinabi ng LGU na 60% of the fines goes to the service provider.
The agency adds, PUV operators also suffer since they will have to settle the fines if drivers fail to do so.
Admitted naman kami na meron talagang mga pasaway na driver, alam mo naman yon. Pero ang mangyayari sa'yo, pag umalis sa yung driver sa dami ng huli, ang napiperwisyo operator because we are the one paying. Dahil pag hindi kami nagbayad, how can we register?
The Metro Manila Development Authority has been implementing the NCAP since 2016. From January to May this year, the MMDA has recorded over 52,000 violations, most of them disregarding traffic signs and obstruction. The cities of Manila, Valenzuela, Parañaque, and Quezon City all utilize the NCAP. Congressman Ace Barbers now wants its implementation investigated. He says while the concept of the policy is good, the system is clearly being abused.
The NCAP implementation gave rise to more questions than answers. It took a life of its own and became a problem by itself, an additional burden and a source of corruption institutionalized by the state.
The MMDA says it will cooperate should the matter merit a legislative investigation. George Gilas, CNN Philippines.
Could a cable car ride over Metro Manila's traffic be a reality soon? Senator Robin Padilla is suggesting this, along with other measures to solve the perennial traffic problem. Padilla proposed the idea in a plenary session after Senator J.V. Ejercito stressed the need to improve railways and upgrade train systems.
Meron pong isang nauuso din ngayon na kung tawagin po nila ay ropeway. Ito po yung paggamit ng cable. Nais ko din po sana na maimungkahi po sa inyo na ito po ay bagay din sa Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa Metro Manila dahil sa traffic. Ito po yung mga cable car. Opo.
Padilla briefly suggested the cable car concept and agreed that railways and train systems are best for Filipinos, citing the country's geography. Padilla, however, said he only offered the idea in response to Ejercito's speech and did not elaborate or reveal plans about this system. In 2018, then Transportation Secretary Art Tugade floated the idea, and the French government later financed a feasibility study for the system. The Senate panel holds a hearing on various issues hounding the energy sector, such as power outages, high electricity prices, and measures that need amending. Amor Santos reports.
Palagi na nga brownout, pagdating sa singilan, ang taas ng bill ng kuryente. At kapag hindi nakabayad on time, pinuputulan agad. Pwede ba, Secretary Lutilla, do something about that?
Lawmakers grill Energy Secretary Rafael Lotilla on the recurring power outages and higher charges in the provinces. Lotilla says while power reserves are enough approaching the cooler months, assuming no sudden breakdowns of power plants.
But summer months, I have to tell you that I'm beginning to have also not only, I'm not going to say nightmares, but concerns about that. And we will do our best precisely to address the stranded power out there. Like in Negros, it's stranded because, and in Bataan.
Citing his experience running an industrial ice production business in Cagayan de Oro City, Senate President Mig Zubiri says businesses are struggling with the high cost of electricity in Mindanao.
Boss, paano ka naman magsasurvive na kumpanya kung o MSME kung 16 to 18 pesos per kilowatt hour? Eh dito sa Manila, 9 pesos per kilowatt hour. Let's not fault this administration because I also support this administration. The President gave us the marching orders. Baba ang presyo ng kuryente.
Lotilla says the government cannot afford to subsidize electricity. He adds the goal is to tap into new energy sources, including nuclear and tidal, but these are costly and need time to develop.
We should not ban technologies, but we should set standards.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel wants a standard format in electric billing statements to make it easy for consumers to understand, while Tulfo wants a list of government officials with links to electric cooperatives.
Kapag nagreklamo yung taong bayan, pupunta sa kanila, walang ginagawang aksyon ng mga kooperatiba dahil ang kanilang padrino ay mga matataas na opisyales ng probinsya.
Lotilla says the DOE is not an intelligence or investigative body, but adds the agency will look into this. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Less than 2 weeks before the new academic year kicks off, education officials appeal to parents to avoid enrolling their children at the 11th hour. DepEd spokesman Michael Poa says it has been a practice in previous years for students to enroll at the last minute or even while classes are ongoing.
We really want to be better prepared sa pagbabalik eskwela kasi nga COVID, dengue, monkeypox, and then of course may mga nasirang schools sa Northern Luzon and may kakulungan pa rin tayo ng classroom sa Metro Manila. We have strategies for that, but in order for those strategies to be effective, we need to get concrete numbers kung ilan talaga yung ine-expect na mga learners per school.
Over 18 million elementary and high school students have already enrolled in public schools so far. Classes will open on August 22nd for a 2-month transition period from blended learning to full face-to-face classes by November. DepEd says this transition period will determine if some schools will be allowed to continue with the blended learning setup beyond November. The Education Department also asking for more funds to repair damaged classrooms. At the hearing of the House Committee on Basic Education and Culture, DepEd Undersecretary Epimaco Densing said the budget for classroom repairs should be increased to at least 16 billion pesos. The Budget and Management Department allotted only 1.5 billion pesos for rehabilitating classrooms under the national budget next year.
Since 2015 or 2016, many of the repairs have not been budgeted for us to be able to address these calamity hit areas. In fact, as of today, the budget needed to be able to update and ensure that the repairs have been made is close to 40 billion pesos. And based on our consultation with the Department of Budget and Management the previous week, they mentioned that for our budget for next year, while the NEPs has not been finalized by as of last week, they've mentioned that for new construction, they've allotted 5.9 billion for DepEd, 1.5 billion only for repairs, and 2 billion for a quick response fund.
Densing says there is a shortage of 91,000 classrooms nationwide. He says the agency is working on interventions such as holding classes in shifts and constructing temporary learning spaces. When we come back, Metro Manila's one-week COVID-19 infection rate slows down, but infections are seen to peak next week. And President Bongbong Marcos appoints a new overseas workers welfare chief and other seasoned officials in the Migrant Workers Department. Keep it here on Newsnight.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back to Newsnight. Senate President Mig Zubiri says senators will look into the extension of the COVID-19 vaccination program law. This as Health Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Vergeres says amendments are needed to extend the validity of the measure. The state of calamity takes effect until September 12th. This means the vaccination law will no longer be in place beyond that date unless the President extends the declaration.
Dito po nakataya ang mga EUA ng ating bakuna, nakataya ang ating mga tax exemptions para po dun sa mga assistance na nakukuha natin. Nakataya rin po dito at nakatali ang emergency procurement na atin pong nagagawa because of the pandemic. And nakatali din po dito ang pagkontrol natin ng presyo ng iba't ibang commodities because of the pandemic.
Zubiri joining calls to allow the rollout of second booster shots for the rest of the general public, while the Senate imposes a lockdown for guests for the next 3 weeks following the infection of 3 centers. Zubiri says only select resource persons will be allowed inside their building. Senate Committee on Health Chairperson Bongo will sit down with the Health Department next week to discuss pandemic response. Among the issues to be tackled are the expired COVID-19 shots and the possible escalation of alert levels. Go says they will also discuss measures to address the threat of monkeypox, including border control and surveillance efforts. In the United States, a new strategy to stretch the supply of monkeypox vaccines, but CNN's Amy Kiley reports it may still not be enough to meet short-term demand.
We will likely still run out of vaccines before we run out of arms.
That's despite a new plan to stretch the U.S. supply of the monkeypox vaccine. It lets providers put smaller dose shots into the skin rather than under it. That allows each original dose size to vaccinate up to 5 people. The national stockpile has more than 400,000 doses. Now they could help protect more than 2 million people.
Intradermal injections are often used for TB skin tests and have been used for other types of vaccines before.
The change is the result of an emergency use authorization from the FDA.
The agency began exploring viable scientific options that would allow for greater access to the currently available vaccine.
It also allows children at high risk of infection to get under the skin vaccinations. They rarely get monkeypox, but
over the past week, there has been an uptick in exposures, potential exposures of children.
stretching the vaccine supply still might not meet short-term demand. People are lining up for the shots, and the disease is still spreading. The U.S. has more than 9,000 cases on record.
It comes down to like anything you touch, utensils, cards that we're all shuffling cards. We pass the cards to each other. We're playing spades, to be real.
Officials say the U.S. will get millions more doses of the monkeypox vaccine in the coming months. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The U.S. declared monkeypox a public health emergency last week. Now, back here at home, the number of COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila may peak next week, but the Octa Research Group says it still has to monitor the trend. Octa says the one-week growth rate in the capital went down to 5% as of August 9 from 14% on August 2. The rate of people testing positive, although still higher than the 5% benchmark, dropped to 15.9% on August 8th from almost 17% the week before. Octa earlier said the COVID-19 wave in the country may last until the Burr months, with provinces seeing very high positivity rates. The new customs chief faces alleged corruption in the agency head-on. How does Acting Commissioner Yogi Filemon Ruiz plan to do that? This report by Lois Calderon.
They will get fired. I am not joking also.
3 weeks since taking his oath, Acting Customs Commissioner Yogi Filemon Ruiz makes it clear he means business. His words were directed at ranking officials of a bureau that's the second largest revenue source after BIR, but also notorious for corruption. Ruiz has ordered a revamp with names of his deputies and directors vetted and for endorsement to Malacanang. District collectors could stay in their posts only if they hit the revenue goal. Ruiz wants the Bureau to rake in 740 billion pesos this year, higher than the official collection target set by the economic team, which has been twice revised. Customs has a record of topping targets, especially as oil imports bounce back.
I have set the standard higher so that we will perform.
Ruiz was Customs Police for 5 years and Drug Enforcement Agency Director before that. He ups the ante, running after smugglers after President Bongbong Marcos picked him.
I was not endorsed by any political group or anyone. So I am here because it is the choice of the President, and I intend to fulfill the promise that I gave to him. So, andito na ako sa point na wala akong pakialam kung sinong magalit sa akin. I don't care sinong magalit sa akin. My only concern is huwag na huwag lang magalit ang Presidente sa akin.
The President's marching orders?
No drugs. No guns. Stop agricultural smuggling.
As the pandemic brought global logistics nightmares, the Bureau makes an appeal before overseas Filipino workers to send balikbayan boxes home.
Pagbukas natin doon sa container van, sisegregate na yan by address. Kung saan yung para sa Mindanao, sisegregate yan. Kung saan yung para sa Visayas, kung saan yung para sa Luzon, so that there will be a systematic delivery ng mga boxes na yun. Pagpasensya niyo lang, but we will strive na by end of September, ma-deliver natin ito lahat. 90% na nga yung delivery natin, yung first set ng containers na nabuksan natin.
Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
The newly created Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, takes shape with more officials appointed to key positions. These include actor and TV host Arnel Ignacio. President Marcos appointed him as the chief of the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, an attached agency of the DMW. Ignacio previously served as OWA Deputy Executive Director and Deputy Administrator during the Duterte administration. He replaces Hans Kakdak, who will now be one of 4 new undersecretaries of the DMW. Bernard Olalla, also appointed as DMW Undersecretary. He will continue serving as officer in charge of the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration until the DMW is deemed fully constituted upon the approval of the 2023 budget. Previously under the Labor Department, the POEA is now under the DMW. Overseas, the death toll from the record rainfall in South Korea rises to 9 as forecasters warn of more bad weather. Seoul officials confirming 2 of the fatalities were Chinese nationals. 17 people were injured, at least 7 others remain missing. Forecasters say the downpour eased on Wednesday, but flooded areas may see stronger rains on Thursday. No reports so far of Filipinos affected by the flooding in Seoul and nearby areas, but embassy officials are monitoring the situation. The nation bid farewell to former President Fidel Valdez Ramos as he was laid to rest at the Libingan ng Mga Bayani Tuesday. But tonight on Politics as Usual, we continue to honor FVR, not as the former leader, but as a family man through his grandchildren's eyes. Join me later as Sam Ramos-Jones, Patrick Halasco, and CJ Sembrano, often called FVR Liit, tells us stories about their Lolo Eddie and their new mission to keep his legacy alive. That's at 8 p.m. only here on CNN Philippines. More stories ahead on Newsnight. Meralco wins against San Miguel in today's PBA Philippine Cup semifinals game, while the Magnolia Hotshots faces off with defending champion TNT Tropang Giga. And the long wait is over for Blinks as Blackpink finally announces the release of their new album. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Fried chicken?
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RBN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. A happy homecoming for 2 Filipino-made Cube satellites that have ended their missions and landed back on Earth. Maya 3 and Maya 4 re-entered the atmosphere on August 4th and 8th, respectively. While in orbit for 10 months, the satellites transmitted amateur radio-based system beacons to 10 countries. The Stamina 4 space program leaders said Maya 3 and Maya 4 were pivotal in the local space industry's development. From Welcome to Dubai, tennis superstar Serena Williams says in a Vogue article that she will evolve away from the sport after this year's U.S. Open. On Instagram, she said she will focus on being a mom. The news comes a day after the 40-year-old won her first singles match in 430 days at the Canadian Open. Serena is regarded as one of the greatest tennis players of all time, with 23 Grand Slam titles to her name. And rising NBA star Jalen Green reconnecting with his Filipino roots, coming back to the Philippines today. This is part of the JG4 Manila tour under sportswear brand Adidas Philippines. The Houston Rockets player is one of its ambassadors. The Ateneo Blue Eagles proving their might on the global stage, dominating a World University Basketball Series match by a whopping 86 points. The collegiate squad crushed Indonesian team Universitas Pelita Harapan yesterday 125-39 in Tokyo, Japan. Ateneo's game versus National Chengchi University in Taiwan is underway. It is official, 7'3" cager Kai Soto will suit up for Gilas Pilipinas for the fourth window of the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup Asian qualifiers. The Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas says it's thankful for Soto's proactive response to the call to play for the flag.
A jumper, nice touch from Kai Soto, open.
And in the PBA Philippine Cup semifinals, the Meralco Bolts managed to tie the series again at 2 each. Meralco beat the San Miguel Beermen 111-97 at the Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. And in another semi-series, TNT Tropang Giga is ahead in the first quarter of Game 4, 18-15. Tropang Giga holds a 2-1 lead over the Hot Shots. Semifinals resume on Friday with TNT facing Magnolia at 3 p.m. and San Miguel playing against Meralco at 6. Members of the NU Lady Bulldogs speaking up after their shocking release from the national women's volleyball team that was supposed to compete at the ABC Women's Cup this month. Pauline Versosa tells us how the players are reacting to the sudden decision.
Shocking and painful. That's how players of National University described their sudden removal from the national women's volleyball team. In a letter dated August 7th, the Philippine National Volleyball Federation released all NU players who formed 12 of the 14-woman pool, citing that they may not perform at their best level due to restrictions and conditions that hinder training and overall program. This, despite the players already training for 3 weeks under national team head coach Jorge Souza de Brito for the ABC Women's Cup later this month.
So, nagulat po kami lahat. Sabi, ganun-ganun sa isang iglap, wala na para tayo sa national team. Parang after all, na lahat ng teams, tinalikuran yung invitation, tas kami, parang kinut short namin yung time namin with our families and friends, ganyan, para makapagpahinga after UAP. Para dito po sa national team. Tapos ganun lang din po yung mangyayari.
Players say the removal came immediately after they declined to play as a last-minute replacement for Japan in the semifinals of the Premier Volleyball League. The notice from the PNVF coming only 2 days before the tournament, raising concern among the Lady Bulldogs on their preparedness with their current training condition just at 70%, with some players still nursing injuries.
Para lang yun sa safety din. Parang, syempre, ibang level na yung lalaroan namin.
Yung ABC, iba't ibang bansa yung makakalaban namin. And hindi lang sila basta-basta players. So, kung hindi maayos yung preparation, di ba nga, sabi po nila, if you fail to prepare, you're prepared to fail. So, yun po yung kinakatakutan namin mangyari.
NUT manager Mariana C. Diet also stressed management simply acted upon the sentiments of their players with the welfare of the student athletes in mind.
I really don't know what they mean by restriction and condition. But the program was really 5 weeks for ABC. Nothing in between. It's really written, it's Asian Volleyball Confederation Cup. So that's the expectation of all the team. May si Coach George na if you don't play for PBL, you cannot play for ABC. So, siyempre, itong mga bata, iyak yan.
Players expressed dismay after pouring much time and effort, even answering the call of the national team when others begged off. For now, they say they just want to move forward and shift their focus back on their title retention bid in the UAAP.
Nakakasad lang po kasi parang hindi po na-appreciate siguro on our part, on our end, na lahat po ng effort. Tapos, parang mali pa po namin.
Hindi naman matatapos yung volleyball sa ganitong sitwasyon. And let's just hope na things will get better.
In our heart, we really wanted to help the PNBF, to Mr. Susara, to the rest of the stakeholder of PNBF. We will still support you. 100% yan. PNBF. Ang hope ko lang, baguhin naman natin yung sistema at saka programa. Yun lang, baguhin lang talaga natin. Hindi tayo pwedeng ganito.
The eventual champions of the PVL will instead represent the flag in the ABC Women's Cup, taking place from August 21 to 29 at the Phil Sports Arena. Pauline Verzosa, CNN Philippines.
Speaking to CNN Philippines Sports Desk, the National Volleyball Federation President Ramon Tatsuzara commenting on the issue saying, quote, "When you lend your players to the national team, you must follow the plans and programs," unquote, adding that the Lady Bulldogs would play for the country if they really wanted to. And moving on to K-pop, time to set the date. Blink's Blackpink's second full album, Born Pink, is arriving on September 16th. This is the Kill This Love singer's first record in nearly 2 years. A pre-release single called Pink Venom comes out next Friday. And that is it for now. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. and on Politics as usual at 8. I'm Pia Hontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.